arena, let's talk about tinted because there's definitely a few.
Yeah.
I tried a lot.
I
I
punted a
tried the
lot of it
coat.
to Victoria.
Yeah. So Gloria gets the minerals. I get the tinted. Mainly because Gloria doesn't wear a lot of foundation. So and I do a little more. So there's that. So I tried Kosas, Say, Supergoot, Tower 28, Tatcha, Kate Somerville.
Wow.
Those are probably the six of them.
hmm
And just like last year, tinteds are on a spectrum of from sheer to high coverage.
hmm
And I would say high coverage is your Kosas, the Say, and the Supergoop. And these are all, I should say, differing SPF. So, oh, and Tower 28. I'm sorry, not Say. So it's Kosas, Supergoop, Tower 28. Those are the three that are high coverage. And Tower 28 surprisingly has the lowest SPF at SPF 30. Kosas is SPF 40, and Supergoops, that is their untinted, is SPF 50. But surprisingly, Tower 28 for me was like a lot heavier, and by the end of the day, I felt like it just wanted to start like sliding around, and it was a bit too nourishing for me. I think I just want to put it out there that sometimes we think that SPF, like a lower SPF, will lead to a lighter texture, but that is not always the case. Well, it wasn't the case in this scenario that I want to point out. So, of the higher coverage ones, I actually really liked Kosas. I think
hmm
it was a lighter. It went on lighter. The coverage wasn't too cakey, and I just think it's generally comfortable despite the amount putting on. So, but I think those three, they're all pretty close. Like, I think it'd be fine with any of those three. Say was surprising because I think the texture could be good, but had that the rancid smell, and I think that was
Oh,
like
a
pretty
production issue,
disappointing.
maybe.
Yeah, yeah. So I think, and what's interesting is when we shared this finding with everyone, it was kind of like a mixed bag where some people said they smelled it and others said they didn't. So it
Mm.
could be in like differing shades, differing lots. So I would say just like look out for that. And then of the sheer tinteds,
hmm
I really liked Supergoop's Glow Screen. I think it's a really nice like dewy. If you want that kind of like glow dewy vibe, I
hmm
think that texture is really pretty. Tatcha's, I mentioned this before, very expensive formula, comparable to Murad City Defense. And it's funny because when I tested this, I was like, this is Murad City Defense. I think Murad is cheaper, so I would just like tell them to do that one. No. Tatcha is cheaper by a few dollars. So in that sense, I'm like, they're comparable. So if you like either one. But I think I actually wanted to give a shout out to Kate Somerville's. Theirs is, I think the price point is, I wrote it down here, is $46.
hmm
It's definitely in the same realm as Tatcha and Murad. And I think the texture is pretty comfortable. It does have, I mean, with any mineral, it's always gonna have like a film, and it's gonna be slightly more nourishing. But it didn't bother me. Yeah, so those were my findings of the 6 that I tried.
I was really scared of this category, so for the most part, I was like, "Go, Victoria, go!" But I did end up testing two of the more sheer ones myself.
Mhm.
That is the very popular Ulta MD one and the
Mhm.
Dermatology one. And I'm surprised by the Dermatology one in a good way. I actually end up liking it quite a bit, and it is sheer, so it doesn't offer a lot of coverage, but at the same time, it on my skin, it's just enough. It's kind of like it's your skin, but a little better kind of
Yeah.
vibes. And
Yeah.
you can layer it on thick, and it still feels pretty good.
Mhm.
So to me, that's obviously the most important thing for these coverage. Anything with coverage, all the tinted, I think is it can get a little awkward in terms of do you want to apply like a tinted foundation versus a sunscreen? And if you're
Yeah.
using it as your primary sunscreen, then you should be caking on pretty thick. And the dermatology formula is pretty good for that. The Ulta MD, the initial application is pretty similar, but I will say that one to me feels more like the classic problem with tinted is that you only want to apply a pretty thin layer.
Mhm.
So I
Mhm.
had I had like two gunky fingers. I didn't even go to the third finger, and the rubbing time took a little long. So it took me quite a bit to just set the first finger worth of formula. And when I applied the second one, the texture started feeling a little a little unnatural, and towards the end, it kind of wants to pill. I gave that one a 3 out of 10.
Mm,
Again, I didn't give it a 0 because it's mild pilling, just a little bit, but it's not very layer friendly. So to me, that one is one I
mm.
like, even though it's super popular, it didn't work for me, and I wouldn't necessarily recommend it.
You know what's funny is this is the only category that when we do this like 2, 3 finger method, I am like borderline scared. Like
Oh, yeah.
I'll like apply it and then I'm like at the second finger, I'm like, maybe just 2 fingers. That looks worthy enough. That's enough. That's enough. Like
So I
I feel like it's a risk. Like I'm about to walk out with like a mud mask, basically.
basically, well, I have small hands and short little fingers, and in this category, I literally bargain with myself like, "Oh, yeah, 2 knuckles, that's practically 1 whole finger, right?"
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, and I think we should also say that I think Laura and I, we gravitate towards sheer. One, because we're lazy, so the thought of having to carry around like makeup wipes to reapply is
Mhm.
not something we think about. And then the second being we kind of are just used to like a more I guess like like bare skin look.
Mhm.
So that's the kind of textures we gravitate towards. But I will say this category is really improving.
Yeah, it's
So
true.
there is definitely options to like using, a tinted sunscreen as a foundation. I think it's only going to get better. And some of these are actually pretty solid. So yeah.